Welcome to Gamma Radio with your host, Gil Mancha. This is my chronological discussion of the strongest one there is, The Incredible Hulk. Disclaimer, I will be actively getting and collecting issues as we go, and I'm trying to only cover issues that I have a physical copy of or are in a collected edition. I'm going to try to stray away from digital because I love physical media, but the Marvel Unlimited app would be a great way to keep up with the podcast. We'll of course start with his original self-titled comic. There's a few others, some TV shows, movies, and even video games we can discuss. And trust me, I'd love to discuss those games down the line. Be sure to hit the follow button on Spotify or preferred platform to get episodes as soon as they drop. While you're there, please leave a review so the show can be recommended to other comic book fans. In today's episode, we're covering the Green Goliath's encounter with the Toadmen in The Incredible Hulk Volume 1, Issue 2, The Terror of the Toadmen. This issue was released on July 1st, 1962. Links will be in the podcast notes. Let's take a look back at what else was happening that day in history.
The duck can't cover, sports fans. He's hulking out.
The best-selling single in the US was I Can't Stop Loving You by Ray Charles, and in the UK was Come Outside by Mike Same and Wendy Richard. The top of the box office was That Touch of Mink. Children and teens were watching TV shows like Heckle and Jekyll, Dennis the Menace, Courage Cat and Minute Mouse, and the Flintstones. If you're a child, you're likely to be playing with toys like Fisher-Price the Little People, Matchbox Toy Cars, Etch-a-Sketch, and Chatter Telephone. I Can't Stop Loving You by Ray Charles is a rhythm and blues, country soul, and countrypolitan cover of a 1957 song originally by Don Gibson. It hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 for 5 weeks and even number 1 in the UK singles charts for 2 weeks, as well as number 1 in a Swedish sales chart also in 1962. The song was covered many times later, including by Elvis, Conway Twitty, Dolly Parton, Freddie Fender, and Bryan Adams. To me, it still has that older song quality to it. Aside from that, it's a good, easygoing song. It's amazing how it was number 1 for 5 whole weeks. Come Outside by Mike Same and Wendy Richard is a pop novelty song released in 1962. It was written by arranger, producer, and songwriter Charles Blackwell, but the version we're discussing was a recording credited to Mike Same but directed by Charles featuring Wendy. The song stayed number 1 for a fortnight or 2 weeks. Being a pop song, it has more energy to it than I Can't Stop Loving You, so for that reason I may prefer it. That Touch of Mink is a 1962 American comedy film directed by Delbert Mann, starring Cary Grant, Doris Day, Gig Young, and Audrey Meadows. IMDb states, a rich businessman and a young woman are attracted to each other, but he only wants an affair while she wants to save herself for marriage. It won Best Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy at the Golden Globe Awards, Best Written American Comedy at the Writers Guild of America Awards, and won several awards at the Laurel Awards. Besides Top Comedy, Cary Grant won the Top Male Comedy Performance, Doris Day won the Top Female Comedy Performance, and Gig Young won Top Male Supporting Character Performance. You can watch it for free on Pluto TV and maybe even Dailymotion. But you can buy it and rent it on YouTube, Apple TV, Prime Video, and Fandango at home. Heckle and Jekyll are 2 identical anthropomorphic yellow-billed magpies. Sometimes one is smoking a cigar. I know I've seen them somewhere, but the show isn't very familiar to me. I didn't see an official way to watch it, but there's a lot of clips on YouTube. Dennis the Menace is a 1959 sitcom that spanned 4 seasons. It's about a mischievous child that antagonizes his neighbor. You can watch it for free on Peacock, Tubi, Sling TV, Roku Channel, Crackle, Plex, Prime Video, and even the Redbox app for 1 cent. Courage Cat and Minute Mouse is a 1960s children television series that spanned 4 seasons. The 2 animated crime fighters battle evil. You can watch it on Prime Video, Tubi, Pluto TV, the Roku Channel, and Fandango at home. The Flintstones is a 1960 sitcom that spanned 6 seasons. The Flintstones were the modern Stone Age family residing in Bedrock. Fred Flintstone worked an unsatisfying quarry job, but returned home to lovely wife Wilma and eventually daughter Pebbles. Fred, a big fan of golf and bowling, also enjoyed bullying neighbor Barney Rubble, while Barney's saucy wife Betty was best friends with Wilma. During the show's run, Barney and Betty would adopt an unnaturally strong son, Bam Bam, who would become friends with Pebbles. The Flintstones, heavily inspired by the Honeymooners, convinced a generation of children that dinosaurs and humans occupied the planet at the same time. You can watch it on Hulu, Max, Tubi, Boomerang, YouTube Premium Service, Disney Plus, Prime Video, or you can buy it on Fandango at Home. Fisher-Price Little People are mini figures of people. Matchbox toy cars, I think, are a lot like Hot Wheels cars. The Etch-a-Sketch is a mechanical drawing toy where you use 2 dials to move a stylus up and down or left and right across an aluminum powder to create drawings. To reset, you shake the toy. The Chatter Telephone is that rotary telephone with a face and 4 wheels. The handset on the back looks like the spoiler of a car. When the toy is pulled, it makes a chattering sound and the eyes go up and down. If you're familiar with either songs or the top movie, let me know. On the Spotify app, there's now a comment section. You can do it there or social media. That's a taste of what the world was like when The Incredible Hulk issue 2 was released.
Ow, I hurt myself changing this tire.
I'm reading this thanks to Marvel Epic Collection, The Incredible Hulk Volume 1, Man or Monster, but it's also available via Marvel Masterworks, The Incredible Hulk Volume 1, and Mighty Marvel Masterworks, The Incredible Hulk Volume 1, The Green Goliath. This comic was written by Stan Lee himself, penciled by Jack Kirby, inker Steve Ditko, letterer Artie Simek, and editor Stan Lee. The cover has 4 of the titular Toadmen watching a monitor that has General Ross and Benny on it, where one soldier says, "General, it's them, the Toadmen. They're attacking." One of the Toadmen replies, "It's too late for the humans to stop us now. Nothing can stop us." Breaking through the metal wall is the Hulk, now green, saying nothing except the Hulk. The title says, The Terror of the Toadmen. Unfortunately, there's no About This Issue section on the Marvel Unlimited app for this issue. After the break, we'll summarize the issue.
Let me guess. You thought I'd be bigger?
What it do, guys? Mandrame here, and if you like board games, especially deck building games, you should check out Team_Thunder on YouTube. There we have unboxings and games of Legendary, a Marvel deck building game, the DC deck building game, the Transformers deck building game, and many more. That's also where you can find VODs for this, Accelerated Visions, a Spider-Man 2099 podcast, and Water Damage, an Aquaman podcast where you can directly leave a comment and we can discuss the issues.
No, not the Hulk. Not now.
Part 1, Enter the Toadmen. The first panel shows the Grey Hulk standing in a swampy area, holding broken trees, wielding it like a club. Over the green trees are the words, starring the Hulk, the terror of the Toadmen. Like a savage, marauding monster from some mad netherworld, the frightening figure of the Hulk suddenly appears from out of the murky swamp, and our mind-staggering adventure begins. In the next panel, there is a sheriff who shines a light on the Hulk. I thought I heard someone crashing through the underbrush. Better see who, oh no, no. He rushes to his police car, and as he's driving away, he shoots at him. It's the Hulk. He's still alive. I gotta make it to town. Gotta warn the others. Making good on his word, he drives back to town. Get off the streets. Lock your doors. The Hulk is alive. He's headed this way. People instantly start running away. One of the bystanders responds, "The Hulk!" One child is looking back as he's approaching his home, but his mom yells to him, "Quick, Bobby. Hurry, Tommy. Inside. Hurry, hurry." At another house, we see a man looking out his door, slightly ajar. The streets are empty. It looks like a ghost town, except for the troopers. The woman behind him responds, "Listen. That horrible thudding sound. It's coming closer. It must be him." We see the back of the Hulk looking toward the city and a truck in the moonlight. From the truck, 2 voices talk among themselves. "There he is. It's the Hulk." The other voice responds, "Quick, put the truck in high gear. Ram it right into him. Now." Cut to them having reached the Hulk, and the Hulk, now green, having punched through the windshield. The driver calls out, It's like hitting a brick wall." Here come the troops. They'll get him. 4 troopers rush the Hulk. "Hold on to him. Don't let him crash through the barrier." One holding on to the Hulk's arm responds, "Hold him? How?" He said that because one of the other men was thrown off. "Look out!" Now with all of them off of him, the Hulk breaks a light pole and uses it as a club. One of the smarter trooper smartly tells the others, "Back! Get back!" Another responds, "There's no stopping him." But then, just when it looks as though the entire town is about to be shattered by the demon-maniacal might of the Hulk, one small figure breaks free of the troopers and cries, "Hulk, it's me, Rick Jones. Hulk, listen to me." Slowly, dangerously, the giant menace turns, as every fiber of his being still aches to lash out, to smash, and destroy. We see a silhouette of Rick grabbing onto Hulk's arm. "That's it, Hulk. Easy. Take it easy. Follow me. I'll lead you to safety." Then we get a recap of the events of the last issue, which you don't need because you're keeping up with the podcast. And now, back to the present, even as Rick Jones leads the Hulk away from the town he has pillaged, an unearthly spacecraft thunders into our solar system, propelled by a magnetic source of power far beyond the comprehension of human beings. The Toadmen have come. I'll note here that the ship is blue and resembles the shape of a toad sans the front legs. Inside the alien craft, we see two of the Toadmen. They're orange-skinned with blue spacesuits that look identical except for the headpiece. One has side and top fins, and one has a buzzsaw mohawk. Finn says, "We are within sight of our objective. Switch on the magnetic grapplers." Mohawk on the controls replies, "As you wish, sire." Traveling at incalculable speed, twin beams of sheer magnetic energy strike the unsuspecting Earth, drawn to their target by a science far more advanced than our own. The beam focused on America. Now in America, from outside the ship we see, it's done. Our grapplers have focused on the most brilliant scientific brain on Earth, according to our command. Another voice adds, "Let us land and seize him. We shall easily force him to tell us how far advanced the primitive earthly sciences are. Then we shall be able to accurately prepare for our mass attack." Cut to them having landed, the Toadmen exiting their ship. There's one Toadman with just a skull cap but holding a laser of some sort. He says, "The magnetic mine detector will lead us straight to our victim." One of the Toadmen with horns and what looks to be a tennis racket on a stick says, "What chance do the puny Earthlings have against our invincible magnetic powers?" At that moment, we see Banner dressed in all magenta or purple, and Rick in all brown, carrying pickaxes and what looks to be a jackhammer attached to a mounted fuel pack on Banner's back. At that moment, Bruce Banner and Rick Jones are interrupted as they set out to perform a strange task. Banner says, "It's General Thunderbolt Ross and his daughter Betty." She calls out to him, "Bruce, I've been so worried about you ever since the Hulk escaped." Ross replies, "No need to worry about him. That milksop will find a safe place to hide whenever danger threatens." Betty approaches Banner with worry on her face. Ross, not so much. She says, "Don't mind Dad, Bruce. He has no respect for anybody who isn't a military man." Bruce responds, "Betty, you know I'm a scientist, not a man of action. As for the Hulk, I've told you. You needn't worry about me. He wouldn't waste time trying to hurt a milksop like me." Bruce and Rick say their byes to the Rosses. Betty waves goodbye. "Wait, where are you going with all that equipment?" Bruce bids farewell with his cap, off to conduct a little scientific research. "See you when we return." Ross chips in, "I'll never understand what you see in a weakling like him, Betty. I wish I had that gold brick in my division." But Thunderbolt Ross would have changed his opinion sharply if he knew of Bruce Banner's real destination. The two are seen at a distance entering a cave. Banner says, "This is it, Rick. It's a lonely underground cave I've discovered. It'll be perfect for our purpose." From inside the cave the two are in, there's a body of water they're walking around. Rick says, "Gosh, Doc, what if it doesn't work?" Bruce replies, "It's got to work, Rick. It's got to." From in the water, we see a giant cube coming out from inside the cave. We hear, "This natural outcropping under the lake is like an indestructible fortress. It is powerful enough to withstand any assault." Once inside, there's a room with a doorway. Bruce says, "So, let us hope it will be strong enough to imprison the Hulk each night." Rick responds, "But Doc, you can't lock yourself in every night for the rest of your life." In the next panel, we see the two pushing a green barricade into a big rectangle brick. Bruce says, "I've got to, Rick, until I find a way to stop changing into the Hulk. But now, let's test the door. I've arranged the balances so that your one easy push will roll it into place." Close in on Bruce as he's pushing the device to push the door. It's solid concrete, 10 feet thick. Even the Hulk won't be able to break out of here. Close in even more, and Rick putting his hand on Bruce's shoulder, who puts his hand over his mouth in despair. "There, we've checked it, and it works. Now it's up to you, Rick. Each day at twilight, you've got to lock me in there." Rick continues his statement, "And I'll release you every morning. Don't worry, Doc, I'll never let you down." But suddenly, unexpectedly, at that very instant, an eerie whine fills the dank undersea chamber, and the two startled men are hurled backwards, like feathers in a gale. Ooh. They go from the air in one panel to the wall in the next. Bruce says, "Rick, something's pinning us to the wall. Something of unimaginable magnetic power. But what?" Rick answers, "Doc, look, in the shadows ahead, coming toward us. They look like giant human toads." Part 2, Prisoners of the Toadmen. We have a full page of two of the Toadmen using their lasers to shoot their yellow and white streams that keep our two heroes suspended in the air. One of the Toadmen says, "Do not struggle and you will not be injured. Yet. You are powerless against our magnetic ray guns." Helpless in the grip of the strange magnetic ray, Bruce and Rick are taken from their underground chamber to the interior of the nearby spaceship and floated inside like so much limp baggage. The ship then zips into space. We have captured the greatest mine on Earth, as we planned. Now, blast off. Let us seek safety in orbit around Earth. Meanwhile, inside the mighty ship, our two heroes are floating in their room. Rick says, "Doc, who are they? What are they? What's happening to us now?" He responds, "We're in free fall, Rick." Suddenly, a monitor turns on, showing the Toadmen, and one of them speaks to them. "Greetings, captives. I am Korak, captain of the ship. You are my prisoners." He continues, "We are the Toadmen from outer space, outside your atmosphere. The main body of our invincible fleet awaits to attack Earth. But first we want to learn how advanced you are, scientifically. And that is what you will tell us." He explains more as we get depictions of what they plan on doing. "You dare not refuse, for at my command our magnetic repulsion rays can make entire cities fall off into space in the blink of the eye." We see a red beam hit the ground as chunks of cities are floating in the air. With the incalculable power of magnetic force at our command, we can empty your oceans. We see water being pulled up from the ocean, leaving fish and other aquatic life flopping on the new ground. By reversing our magnetic force, we can root your people to the ground, making them unable to move. We see people with their feet stuck to the ground, many bent over and unable to move. We get a shot of the two looking at the monitor as Torak continues. "So, will you tell me what I wish to know, or?" Bruce responds, "Never, no matter how you threatened." Rick chips in, "Attaboy, Doc, don't let that cat scare you." Korak counters, "Witless stripling."
Gamma wave!
Stripling means a young man. Torak continues, "We have no need of you. It is the other's brain we require. As for you, back to your miserable planet." A trapdoor opens from above and sucks out Rick. With power far exceeding any known on Earth, at a flick of a finger, the Toadman hurls Rick Jones back to Earth in a magnetically guided plastic escape cylinder. It's basically the shape of a Twinkie. Look at Bruce watching from on board the ship. He landed safely, but what of Earth? What chance do we have against a race with such fantastic magnetic powers? Wait, we're reaching the dark side of the Earth. It's becoming night. Bruce starts convulsing and grasping at his collar. There's a yellow filter over him. "Don't let it happen again. Not now. Please, not now." He starts changing, tearing his clothes. No. Color goes back to normal with the transformation complete. The Hulk is now out. Arrgh! He looks around, confused. Where am I? Why am I locked in here? Meanwhile, back to the Toadmen. "Now that boy is gone, it will be easier to handle the human." The other replies, "Let us return to his chamber and force him to talk. By now, the human should be willing to tell us anything. He should." Suddenly, the Hulk bursts through the metal wall. "What?" As the Hulk approaches, one asks, "What manner of creature is it?" Another replies while shooting, "No matter, destroy it." He misses the Hulk, who grabs the Toadman and takes his gun. "You dare attack the Hulk?" Then he shoots at them. "Now you taste the sting of your weapon." With a staggering force, the magnetic stun gun scatters the Toadmen like 10 pins. 4 of them are suspended in the air. Like a child carrying ragdolls, the powerful Hulk hurls the aliens into a windowless chamber in the ship. Then he says, "I will lock you in here while I take control of your ship." He looks around the ship, seeing the controls. "These weapons, they make our arms look like pea shooters," close in on his face. "With this flying dreadnought under me, I can wipe out all mankind. Now the Hulk will be the hunter instead of the hunted." Meanwhile, miles below, at a U.S. anti-missile base, we see General Ross yelling at military personnel at controls. "If your radar shows an unidentified flying object above us, shoot it down, man. What do you think we're here for?" Within seconds, Earth's mighty defense rockets are alerted as fantastically sensitive electronic devices aim them right at the Toadman's ship. There's several rockets about to be launched in the background with a satellite dish broadcasting a message. 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1. While one lone teenage figure vainly tries to stop the deadly hunter missiles, Rick yells out, No! Dr. Banner is aboard that ship. You've got to stop. Don't fire. Don't!" But the frenzied cry of one boy cannot halt America's mightiest defense weapons as they rise like silent avengers into the awesome substratosphere. Within striking range of the spaceship, they drop their boosters back to Earth as the mighty warheads zero in on their target. And then, the dread moment of impact, the warheads hit simultaneously, causing an explosion above. Like a wounded hawk, the alien ship plunges to Earth, as its unearthly frame saves the occupants from instant death by cushioning the fall. He hits the earth and bounces before settling. Ross orders his men, surround that ship, seal off the area, move. This may be the biggest victory we have ever achieved. I want an iron cordon thrown around the ship.
One more!
A military cordon is a line of troops or military posts that block an area to prevent passage. Presumably, an iron variant is one that can't be broken. Part 3. Bruce Banner wanted for treason. Ross and his men approach the crashed ship with weapons aimed forward, but as the smoke clears, one lone figure emerges from the smoldering wreckage. The wreckage which has fallen on that part of Earth in which it is still daylight. No longer the misshapen form of the Hulk, it is once again the figure of a normal human being. One soldier yells out, It's Dr. Bruce Banner. Ross replies, so it was you. Trying to sneak attack on your own country, eh? You'll never talk your way out of this, mister. Take him away, men. Meanwhile, before the troops can manage to surround the entire ship, the Toadmen, unharmed by the cushioned crash, frantically use their magnetic weapons to silently blast a hole in the earth beneath them. One is prone, guarding them, while two are visibly making the hole. Hurry, before the Earthlings discover us. As the troops are looking around, looks as though Banner handled the ship all by himself. The Toadmen are able to make it underground, using their magnetic weapons to tunnel their way through the ground. A trooper running around the ship replies, he must have. There's no signs of any other life. Once safely away from the armed guard, the Toadmen emerge from the ground and then bring out the magnetic flare. There's no time to lose. Our forces must strike now. The Toadman with a horned helmet shoots upward and it's seen from space by their king, who calls out to their fleet, there is the signal, prepare to attack. Moments later, at a maximum security prison, from behind bars, Bruce talks to Rick. Take it easy, Rick. There's nothing you can do for me now, he replies. But Doc, these Joes don't understand. They can't call you a traitor, not you. Close in on his face. Doc, as soon as it gets dark, the Hulk can bust out of this joint easy enough, can't he? Bruce looks sad. Perhaps, Rick, but he's so unpredictable. It might be better if darkness never came. While outside the concrete prison, General Ross tells his men, I want a 24-hour guard around Banner. Understand, soldier? The soldier answers, yes, sir, General Ross. Nothing human ever can escape from here, sir. But General Thunderbolt Ross cannot rest easy. Even after reaching his home, Betty tries to reason with her father. Dad, you can't really think that Bruce Banner is a traitor. It's impossible. Smoking a cigarette and looking outside. Clearly troubled, he tells her, I don't know what to think, Betty. All I know is he buzzed this continent in a strange, powerful ship with no warning and no authorization. It's up to Washington to decide his fate now. Conveniently, a phone rings. Bring. Ross answers, and while we can't hear what was said, he repeats it back. What's that? An invasion? An armada of spaceships? Where? How? Keep calm, man. Sound the red alert. I'm on my way. Hearing this, Betty's worried. Dad, if Earth is in danger, we'll need Bruce Banner. We'll need his knowledge, his brains. At that very moment, traveling at incalculable speed, the mightiest space force ever seen on Earth streaks across the skies, throwing the entire planet into a state of uncontrolled panic. Citizens are pointing up at the dozens of ships in horror and shock, and suddenly a powerful magnetic impulse jams every Earth TV and radio receiver. As the face of the Toad King appears on screens from Brooklyn to Bangkok, he tells the populace, heed my words, puny Earthlings, for I am your master. Even now my invincible forces control the skies above your planet, as they prepare to launch the greatest threat you can imagine. Part 4. The Hulk runs amok. The Toad King continues his message to the world. Within seconds, our fleet shall be in position to hurl all of its mighty magnetic powers at your moon, causing it to leave its orbit and spin ever closer to your helpless Earth. Each day, each hour, each minute that it comes closer will cause more destruction to your primitive world. We see the armada that seems to have shot a giant beam that's moved the moon closer to the Earth. He continues, your coastal cities will be flooded by mile-high tidal waves as bit by bit your captive planet will crumble beneath you, until the final moment when the nearness of the moon causes all the Earth to be hurled out of its normal orbit into the destructive currents of outer space. We see what looks to be a cracked Earth crashing into giant space debris. Even as I speak, the moon is starting to drift closer and closer to you, prodded by the force of our matchless magnetic rays. There is nothing you can do to stop us. It looks like the whole armada works in unison to achieve this. He continues, see how the tides are beginning to rise in your sea coast cities? Can you feel it? Can you sense the beginning of the end of mankind? We see a flooded city, water having reached halfway up a van. There's people on top of houses and others traveling by boat. Soon your very buildings will start to crumble as a crust of earth cracks and swells under the unbearable pressure of the moon's proximity. But there's still one way to save yourselves, one way to reverse our magnetic rays. We see buildings crumble and pieces floating upward, and that is by announcing the complete surrender of planet Earth. Ross replies, "Never! We'll never surrender. We'll fight him. We'll beat him. Somehow we'll save Earth for mankind." Meanwhile, in a lonely, barren cell, one figure is all but forgotten as Earth seems to tremble in its final death throes. One lone figure who grimly grips the iron bars as he watches the gathering twilight begin to creep over the countryside. Bruce grabs his throat. "Now I can feel it. My throat grows tight. My head is throbbing. A black haze seems to be covering my brain." He's halfway between Bruce and Hulk already. "I'm changing. Heaven help me. I can no longer stop it. No longer control myself. I... He puts his face in his large hand. "Ah!" Close in on Hulk's emotionless face. There in the cell, unnoticed by human eyes, the Hulk appears again, smashing through the concrete wall the steel bars as though they were cardboard. He lunges out of the cell, to the horror of an armed guard. From the distance, soldiers spot the Hulk. "Look, it's the Hulk!" Another says, "Hurry, load and fire!" A third says, He's ripping the rail right out of those tracks." Before the startled artillerymen can bring their weapon into play, the most awesome creature on Earth lumbers toward them like a living battering ram. He's able to shove the rail into the barrel of the artillery and scoop it up behind him, with the soldier in tow. Run! Nothing can stop him! And, in a short distance away, another pair of alert eyes stare in disbelief from a high-up perch. Do you see what I see? He's coming toward us." The Hulk breaks the structure and grabs it. "Jump for your life!" Hulk swings it down, using it to break down the fence. A soldier yells, "Let's get out of here. We gotta warn General Ross." Hearing this, Hulk says, "General, he locked me in that cell. He is my enemy. I must find him. Must find General." Hulk lumbers away, walking like a zombie. He gets to right outside Ross's house, looking in at Betty. Here, this is his house. Betty hears something and calls out, "Is that you, Dad?" Closing the door behind him, it's the Hulk. "Oh, no. Help!" From outside, the yell can be heard. "Help!" Ross orders his men. "It's my daughter." The Hulk must have appeared again. "Attack!" One of the soldiers seems to say. "He won't escape us this time." 4 soldiers charge the door. "Break down the door!" Another, "Hurry!" One is trying to use his gun to pry open the door, and the 4th says, "We'll take care of that overgrown gorilla once and for all." Suddenly, an arm from inside sends the door flying off its hinges. Woof! Sending the soldiers flying away. Taking no chances, Thunderbolt Ross orders a charging tank to smash through the rear of the house. Faster, every second counts. Rick Jones is trying to get past the troops. "Let me through. You gotta let me through. I'm the only one can reason with him." Seconds later, Toadman and Earth invasions are momentarily forgotten as the Hulk and his pursuers stand face to face. And Destiny seems to hold her breath, waiting for the next fateful move. With guns pointed in Hulk's direction, Ross tells his soldiers, "Hold your fire, you might hit my daughter." Rick tries to reason with both Ross and Hulk. "Don't shoot, let me go to him. Hulk, it's me, Rick, your friend." Hulk throws him aside. Hulk has no friends. From off screen, "Now's our chance, get him." Part 5, the end of the Hulk? Over a dozen soldiers dogpile the Hulk. Like a maddened grizzly shaking off the attack of a pack of wolves, the Hulk hurls his foes from him, and then, moving with unbelievable speed for one so huge, the Hulk lifts the side of the wooden building as though it is a paper box and he flees, with Betty in his free arm. "Stop him, he's getting away." Before they can follow him outside, the Hulk pulls the side of the house down, like blinds of a window. "Too many men. Got to get away. Take you as hostage." Betty responds, No! With just an arm holding a gun sticking out, a soldier shoots but misses. Then, before the stunned fighting men can marshal their forces again, the lumbering giant and his prisoners soon lose themselves in the gloom of evening. But one small figure separates from the others as Rick Jones follows a hunch. The lab. He must be taking her to Bruce Banner's lab. And the boy was right. We see Betty on the floor of the lab. "Who are you? Why do you hate us so?" Stepping toward her. "Hate you? Why shouldn't I hate you? Why shouldn't I hate all mankind? Look what men have done to me." Close up on his eyes. "But they will hound me no longer, for now the Hulk will fight back on my own terms." Then, at that very instant, Rick makes it to the room. "Hulk, stop! Don't! Listen to me." Turning his attention to the newcomer, Hulk approaches him. "You! This time I silence you. Forever." "Wait, you gotta listen. We need you. Earth is in danger. You've got to help. You've got to understand. And even as Rick frantically pleads with the thing that confronts him, even as the Hulk gets closer and closer, throughout the land more and more earthquakes and upheavals begin to take their toll. But we will never know whether Rick Jones's words might have swayed the mighty Hulk, or the occupants of the small cottage are suddenly flung off balance as a violent earth tremor strikes, sweeping everyone off their feet. Slowly, the dazed boy picks himself up, but the massive form of the Hulk is still, motionless, as the first faint rays of daylight bathe in their eerie glow, as the harsh, brutal features begin to soften and change, until finally he's changed back, as Rick hands Bruce his glasses. Doc, what a relief! I thought I was done for that time for sure. Give me my glasses, Rick, and then tell me, quickly, what happened. I can't remember. It's like an ugly, fading nightmare. Quickly, the teenager relates the fantastic events of the previous night, and then Bruce picks up Betty. She's still unconscious. Perhaps it's better this way. She cannot know my terrible secret. She'll be safe for now. As safe as anyone can be in this fearful world. Rick responds, Doc, we gotta hurry. There's lots to do. Cut to Bruce putting a blanket over Betty. Here, she'll come to soon. We'll let her rest on the couch. Rick asks, what about us, Doc? What do we do next? What about the Toadmen? If you can't stop them, nobody can. Bruce answers, there's only one chance, Rick. They derive their power by harnessing the force of magnetic energy. If only that energy can be turned against them. Cut to them outside running somewhere. Follow me. We've got to get to the gamma ray gun. It was the power of gamma rays that turned me into the Hulk. No one can predict what their effect would be on a field of magnetic energy. Perhaps. The gamma gun, your invention. Sure, I should have thought of that. They get to a room with a gigantic ray. Bruce runs to the controls. I'll need about 6 seconds to activate it. Rick warns him. It's gonna be close, Doc. I hear voices outside now. True enough, right outside the door is General Ross and his men. They ran in here, General. Ross yells to the occupants inside. Open up, Banner. We know you're in there. The Hulk escaped us, but you won't. I swear it. Rick thinks, I've got to hold him off. Just for a few seconds, I gotta. Thud. They try to open the door while Rick waits near the door with a fire hose. Stay out. You don't know what you're doing. Give him another few seconds. They get the door open. Stay back. I warned you. He blasts them with water. It's open. Get gl-. And then, before anyone can make another move, the magnificent weapon is fired. With a mind-staggering burst of blazing light, it hurls its charge of sheer gamma energy across the thousands of miles, which leads to the fleet of Toadmen. Gamma energy which strikes the aliens' magnetic field head-on, reversing the attraction of their rays, and sending the Toad ship spinning across the void of space, helplessly out of control, forever. And, with the fading of magnetic force, the moon again resumes its natural orbit. As a grateful Earth returns to normal, a woman yells, the tremors have stopped. An excited man calls out, the Toad fleet is gone. We're saved! Saved! Then, since no one dares call a man who saved Earth a traitor, Bruce Banner and Rick are released, just before the fall of night. And at the home of General Ross, Betty tells her father, I told you we could trust Bruce, Dad. He responds, Huh. Even though he managed to clear himself this time, I still feel like there's some connection between him and that ding-blasted Hulk. For all we know, he and the Hulk are together right now, planning new Devilman. Oh, Dad. Yes, Bruce Banner and the Hulk are together, but not in the way that Thunderbolt thinks. For at that moment, in a gloomy dungeon beneath the sea, the Hulk pounds vainly at a 10-foot-thick concrete wall, as Rick Jones says a silent prayer, waiting for the break of day which will bring their next fantastic adventure, the end. After the break, we'll go over some thoughts and feelings about the issue.
What's happening to me?
My darling boy, my Bruce. Don't be afraid. Scientists aren't supposed to fear evolution.
I think the biggest takeaway here is that they're more than willing to make MacGuffins like magnetic beams. They controlled gravity, they could grab things, blast holes in metal, and be used to tunnel through ground. Basically, since no one knows how magnets work, they do whatever you really need them to. And to be fair, at the end of the issue, they did the exact same thing with gamma rays. Which, even by Bruce's own words, gamma rays are unpredictable, so there's no guarantee it would actually work. The world was already basically being destroyed, so I guess why not try it? The military ended up being very understanding at the end, letting Bruce and Rick free, despite Rick assaulting a group of soldiers and a general. Granted, they saw that what he'd done was to make sure that Bruce had time. If not for Rick, the military may have stopped Bruce and the world would be either enslaved or destroyed. Speaking of stopping the Toadmen, we sort of forgot about them being a threat and then just resolved the issue in like a page and a half. They didn't even get a panel to curse Banner, the smartest man on Earth, who would have come up with using gamma rays to foil their plans. They're just gone. Then conveniently, the moon goes back into its normal orbit and we don't even talk about the aftermath of all the destruction and likely death that occurred thanks to the magnetic prowess of the Toadmen. I might be thinking more of like DC Aquaman stories, but my prediction as I was reading was that the talk of moving the moon to destroy the Earth was going to be BS and they were just guys in suits. Like they'd come up with the alien ruse to trick people into ultimately giving them riches and power. No, aliens exist in their world, as do other planets and higher technologies than we know. Speaking of, if there's even one magnetic gun left on Earth, it can be reverse engineered and honestly could be picked up like someone a la the Vulture and his crew in Spider-Man Homecoming. Even if the Toadmen are gone forever, their weapons may not be. A weird thing to be missing from some of the panels are later that day or that night. There are scenes where there seems to be a time lapse, but it doesn't actually say it. When you read panel to panel, you assume events are occurring right after another unless otherwise stated. My favorite part is seeing the Toadmen's reaction to the Hulk busting through the wall. If I can get a picture, I'll post it on X, or because you're following along, you can reference that moment. Another great one is Hulk ripping off and pulling up a wall like window blinds or a U-Haul door, then closing it in the same way is almost cartoony. I know that it doesn't sound cool, but I like it. Especially in these older comics, we can be forgiven for having cartoony moments since the demographic is younger and they're intentionally thinking of these fantastical things for the Hulk to do, which lends itself to being wild and crazy. What do you think? Did you read the comic? Did I get something wrong? If I do and you guys let me know, I'll include a correction section in the next episode and I'll credit the user. Let's continue the discussion on social media and the YouTube VOD. You can find me at Manjame Thunder on Twitter and at Team_Thunder on YouTube. If you're looking for another podcast to listen to and you're a Spider-Verse fan, then check out Accelerated Visions, a Spider-Man 2099 podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, and anywhere you can find podcasts. If DC is more your thing and you want to hear more about Aquaman, King of the Seven Seas, check out Water Damage, an Aquaman podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, and anywhere you can find podcasts. Be sure to follow that and this podcast to get episodes as soon as they drop. Manjame out.
What time up mean?